So basically what we're going to do is talk about identifying the language in a document. And this applies, again, everything that you're learning here in dealing with Word. We're just using Word as a demonstration tool. From this point forward, you'll know after doing these and following each of these steps how to create an accessible Word document. But all those skills transfer over to any other authoring tool. So if you're going to be dealing with PowerPoint, if you're going to be dealing with Excel, if you're going to deal with PDF, although I will say up front, if you're going to create an accessible PDF, you want to create an accessible Word document first and then save it as PDF, and then there's a couple of things you need to do to finish that off. So that instead of trying to do it in Acrobat, that's really painful. We don't want you to have to go through all that pain because believe me, when I first saw how to create an accessible Acrobat document and their steps, it was 65 pages worth of material that I was like going, well, why would I want to do that when I can just do it in Word? It just makes no sense. So needless to say, if that's what you're going to do with PDF, that's what you would need to do. Now, the nice thing about all of this is language in Word, or there's two components. There's language of the page and language of the parts, all right? So what does that mean? That means we need to identify the language for the page, what this page is, what language this document's written in. Well, we have it really easy. It's already been identified for us. So you don't have to worry about that component. As soon as your Windows was set up, or for that matter, your Mac, you chose what language that machine was going to be in. And so because you chose English, then it already identifies everything you create as being English by default. So you don't have to worry about the language of the page component unless you're making an HTML document. And then in that case, you do have to identify that. However, I don't know how you guys are handling it here, but what I've found is most institutions that are using D2L have already identified the language of the page in the CSS, or the cascading style sheet. So it already knows or already tells you the language of the page, so you don't have to worry about that. So really, the only thing that we're concerned about is the language of the parts. So we know that the default language is English, so we know that everything we put in here is English. Now, how many of you use any foreign language at all? Nobody in here?
Terms or completely writing in a foreign language?
Whether it's a term or whether it's a language. Yeah. Okay. Huh?
Statistical symbols?
Well, that's different. But yeah. Well, yeah. In that component, and that's important, in that component, then you need to identify what that language for those parts are. So, what we're looking at, and especially for blocks of language, what you want to do, and this is really, really rather easy in Word. Let's say that I'm going to select red, green, and blue, and that's actually, a foreign language. I select the language that I want to change the part. Then I go to Review. Then I go to Language. And then you would be setting the proofing language for that selected part. So in selecting the proofing language, let's say I want to make it French. Then I would go ahead and select the language that I need to change that part to. And as you can see now, it has a new proofing language, and that is not the French spelling for red and blue. Okay? Now, the reason why that's so important is both for that group in the middle, cognitive disabilities, as well as screen reader users. Both those groups have a component to their assistive technology that uses text-to-speech. Basically, they're voice synthesizers. And they've actually gotten pretty good instead of sounding horrible like they used to. Now, what happens is as you identify the language of the parts, they'll be hearing, and for the cognitive individuals, using text-to-speech very often is highlighting as they go so they can better scan the material and then listen to it at the same time. As they go, it'll be reading English, and then when it comes to the part that is French, then it will switch the synthesizer to the French voice. And then it will read it in French, and then as it goes back to English, then it will go back to English. That's why this is so important. Because you can imagine, if you have, for instance, German, and you didn't identify that block as German, then it's going to try to read the German as English. Boy, does that sound funny. Yeah, that's let alone French. So the point being is this allows then that synthesizer to switch on the fly. So they're going along reading English and they're reading French, they're reading English and they're reading German, then they're reading whatever it might be. And that's really, really important for that group in the middle because there's a lot of users. And they use technologies that are actually instructional technology, or I call them educational technologies, because they've gone beyond assistive. Assistive at one point was the text-to-speech tool, but now they have all these literacy tools available, and there's a lot more people that use them than just persons with disabilities. Also, it's very, very handy for individuals, for instance, who are using English or have English as a second language. So there might be some of their own language in that document, and then there's English too. Or foreign language learners that need to actually hear that document as it should be read. So all of these pieces really truly make that more of an access door moment. Because accessibility is for who? Awesome. And accommodations for? Right. Excellent. Okay, so that's really all there is to the language component. Now, I have some bad news for all you guys using D2L. The WYSIWYG editor in D2L does not have, see how easy that was? It's not like that. It's easy to put the statement in if you're comfortable with dealing with the HTML. The problem is you have to be comfortable with dealing with the HTML. So, easy element, it's one little element statement, bracket, bracket, and then bracket, close. So that's easy. It's just you have to be comfortable putting that bracket in there. Then the other component is you have to identify what language is going to go in between the quotes, which would be like ES, that type of thing. So keeping that in mind, we're having conversations, now that it's official, we're having conversations with the developers of that particular HTML editor to try to get that included like it is in Word. So hopefully sometime in the future, all of these things that we're talking about will be easily replicated inside of the HTML editor. Now, the HTML editor has something over Word. You can't test your contrast easily in Word. There is a widget in the HTML editor that should be in Word, or for all editors. It literally allows you to highlight, I'm going to use this color. You select the color you want to use. It measures that color against the existing background, and it gives you a slider. And you literally use that slider to the point of where you get a green check mark, and the green check mark lets you know that you are conformant. It's literally that easy. That exists in the HTML editor. So that's a good thing. It's not available in Word. Yes, ma'am.
I have a couple questions. Just quickly, you made reference, are we keeping D2L?
Yes.
Okay, is that what you meant?
It is now official.
So that we're not changing something else. My other question was about the language. When you're talking about identifying it as French, we're not translating, you're just preserving the integrity of that word?
Yes, you're actually identifying the foreign language that has been put in the document as what that foreign language is.
Okay, but there's no translation?
No.
Okay,
No.
that's what I thought.
No. Nope, all it's doing is identifying what the language is. So that way the code behind the scenes will then tell whatever assistive technology that's being used that this is the language, and it can immediately then switch the synthesizer to read the proper language. Okay, good. Question? No?
I must have stepped out when you showed how to tell the document to switch to the.
Okay, we'll do that again. So basically what I did was red, green, and blue. All I did, that's let's say a foreign language. We're seeing as red, green, and blue, but I decided this is French. So this is actual French that I have put in here or wrote in here, whatever. At that point, then what I want to do is go to review. Then go over to language. Then click set proofing language. And then select the language that I want that section to be. Got it? I wish this widget was available in the HTML editor. If they can do the color widget, they should be able to do this. There isn't any reason. Plus, I want them to improve the table widget. But anyway, that's how you do this process. Literally, all you're doing is making sure that whatever foreign language is in the document is identified as such. That's it. Okay. Any questions? No? All right. Now,